A very warm good morning to all of you. It's a beautiful Friday morning and we're back once again with a fresh edition of Breakfast News. I'm Preeti. With me is Anil. And in the next 1 hour, we get you through everything that's making it to the headlines. We'll get you national, international updates. We'll get you updates from the world of sports, business, as well as a web review. When we talk of this morning, Anil, work for it more than you hope for it. This is the thought that struck me in the morning. Even though it's a weekend ahead, and that does not mean that, you know, the spirit to work and the spirit to achieve something should be a little lesser on Friday. So let's hope that the optimism, the positivity which comes in this Friday morning also stays with us through the day and ahead as well.
Well, good morning, Preeti. Well, it's going to be an exciting one. It's power-packed. We've got loads and loads of stories, you know, from the field of politics, business, sports, entertainment, as Preeti mentioned it. But we also cut all the noise and bring you facts as it happens. So it's going to be straight facts there in the next 60 minutes. Let's get started with the top headlines at the top of this hour.
Information and Broadcasting Minister Prakash Javadekar meets representatives of OTT platforms to discuss OTT rules. Emphasizes the need for self-regulation on OTT, says all the delegates welcome the new guidelines.
Today is the second day of the BJP Central Election Committee meeting in Delhi. On the first day of the meeting, several senior leaders, including Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Home Minister Amit Shah, BJP President JP Nadda, brainstormed the meeting today to decide the candidates for the upcoming assembly elections.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi to participate in a virtual summit with Sweden's Prime Minister Stefan Löfven. Vaccination drive gathers pace in the country. Political figures including union ministers, chief ministers, lieutenant governors and opposition leaders get the shot. Vaccine metry also goes strong. African nation Lesotho and Canada receive made in India vaccine doses. Consignment for Ghana, Rwanda, Senegal, Democratic Republic of Congo and Ivory Coast also airlifted.
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh to attend today Combined Commanders Conference. Defence preparations are being reviewed in the conference taking place in Kevadia in Gujarat.
A severe 8.1 magnitude earthquake strikes off the Kermadec Islands in northern New Zealand. Authorities issue tsunami warning. People in coastal areas advised to evacuate immediately. No immediate damage reported.
And in sports, on the second day of the fourth and final test match, India in a strong position after bowling out England for 205. India resumed day two of the test match at 24 for 1. Trailed by 181 runs.
Alright, those are the top stories. Up next, we begin with the news in detail. We start with the national headlines first.
Well, the top stories are coming from the Union Information and Broadcasting Minister Prakash Javadekar as he held an interaction with the representatives of various OTT platforms, including from Alt Balaji, Hotstar, Amazon Prime, Netflix, Jio, Z5, Viacom 18, Shemaru, MX Player, and others. Addressing the representatives of the industry, the minister mentioned that the government has done several rounds of consultation with the OTT players in the past and stressed the need for self-regulation. The I&B minister appreciated that many OTT platforms had welcomed the rules. Informing the industry representatives about the provisions of the rules, the minister said it merely requires them to disclose information and there is no requirement of registration with any kind with the ministry. Speaking on the power of the government under the rules, the minister informed that the government will create interdepartmental committee to look at complaints which remain unresolved at the self-regulatory level.
To get us more on that, our correspondent Tapas is joining us. Tapas, the Information and Broadcasting Minister held a meeting with the representatives of the OTT platforms. To begin with, I would want you to get us the context of the meeting, the reason why this meeting was held.
Right. So the center on 25th of February had notified the new rules and the guidelines of the OTT platforms and regarding them to make their requiring them to make public their details and having whatever the content they are having have to follow the guidelines that needs to be followed. Remember, there was a lot of human that happened earlier regarding the content generation that happened all the time, that even the Supreme Court has pulled up certain OTT platforms with the nature of their content. So on 25th of February, this particular the guidelines that the government of India came out with, and because of that, there was some sort of confusion among the OTT platforms players, for instance, Netflix, Amazon, and other such OTT platforms players about the nature of this particular guidelines, whether there were censorship censored or whether there was just mere guidelines. So they wanted to meet the union minister, and the union minister in fact told them categorically that it is more of a self-regulating sort of a thing, that there won't be much of a censorship. It will basically be able, they would like to have more ideas from the OTT platform players and understand what exactly is their grievances and put an end to their grievances by forming a committee. It was also made by the government quite clearly that these particular guidelines are intended for a better experience rather than on a censorship that a lot of people were thinking of. And that's one of the reasons why this particular meeting becomes more important for the simple fact that the government clarified quite categorically that these are self-regulating guidelines, not a censorship that was a lot of people were fearing to be. Preeti.
Also, with regards to content, especially that's been streamed across all these OTT platforms, what are they going to be? Is there some kind of rule that comes into play where, just like we have certification for movies, do we very soon see certifications or age groups being classified, especially for OTT platforms, considering they are all available there? And it becomes a bit of an issue, especially with smaller children at home and having easy access to these OTT platforms.
Yeah, so the rules related to the publishing of the digital news or the current affairs and also the online curated content. It will provide that a code of ethics needs to be followed by the digital news publishers and OTT content providers, and which will include some sort of age-based classification. We already have what you call a 5 age-based classification of U under UA 7+, under 13, 16, something like that, a UA, which provides which actually caters to the age group classification. Other channels we get to have those sort of a classification. So that kind of thing will come into force, and they have to declare their content regarding exactly what kind of content that they are going to provide. That is something that was quite necessary, considering the fact that, as you rightly mentioned, that a lot of children and a lot of whenever an elderly person sits on these particular platforms, so they don't know exactly what kind of content that's going to come their way. So as I already mentioned, the Supreme Court also has raised some objection regarding the content and the nature of content that has been provided by these OTT platforms. Anil.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you and appreciate you joining us this morning with those updates there, especially on that OTT platform players meeting the INB minister with regards to their doubt. But in the end, it looks like very clearly that all the OTT players there in the business seemed happy with the step taken by the government.
All right, let's turn focus on to Prime Minister today holding a virtual summit with Prime Minister of Sweden, Stefan Löfven. Now, this will be the 5th interaction between the two leaders since 2015. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had visited Stockholm in April 2018 for the first India-Nordic summit. Prime Minister Stefan Löfven had visited India in February 2016 for a special Make in India week. Earlier, the two leaders had met on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly in September 2015. In April 2020, the two prime ministers had a telephonic conversation to discuss the situation arising out of COVID-19 pandemic. India and Sweden have warm and friendly relations based on shared values of democracy, freedom, pluralism, and rules-based international order. To talk more about it, our correspondent Amrit Pal is joining us. Amrit, let us know quickly what is to be taken up when the two leaders talk today through the virtual summit.
Pretty the whole range of the gamut of the bilateral relationship will be discussed today when the two leaders hold this bilateral summit. Trade and investments, cooperation in science and technology, research and development in the defense sector, in the auto sector. The relationship that exists, especially increasing trade and investment in each other's companies. There are about 250 Swedish companies working in India in the health and life sciences sector, in defense sector, in the auto sector. Same with about 75 Indian companies have invested in Sweden. There's a lot of potential between the two countries, which was discussed at the first Nordic summit and later at the bilateral meetings that Prime Minister held with his Swedish counterpart. And but there are some hiccups to the relationship. Ironing out the differences and taking the relationship forward would be the key focus of the meeting. Also, cooperation in a pandemic would be discussed. The two leaders had held a telephonic conversation in April last year. Now, how to take that forward would also be on the agenda today.
Okay, Amritpal, considering that, after Denmark, Sweden is the second Nordic country that, we are having a virtual summit or a virtual interaction. Putting that into perspective, what's the significance that India, especially when it comes to European markets and also with regards to Nordic countries, why so much of significance being given?
Well, European markets offer a lot of scope for the Indian companies to go and engage with them there. Now, this potential hasn't been achieved because of the trade protectionism that exists there. Now, India has been consistently pushing EU for opening up their markets. That would be key on the agenda, but this is a bilateral summit. As you said, this comes after the summit with Denmark. In the same way, the Prime Minister would be pushing Sweden to increase the bilateral trade till the EU FTA comes into place and the trade can be opened up. Now, bilaterally, India would want the Swedish companies to offer more services in India and as well as allow Indian companies. You see, the number of Indian companies invested in Sweden is just about 75. Though that number sounds small, but remember, Sweden is a very small country. But yet there exists a great scope because they are very good on the science and technology, on research and development, especially the defense sector. So a key on the agenda would be to take this relationship forward in these particular sectors.
All right, Amrit, also this will be the fifth interaction between the two leaders since 2015. Very briefly, I would want you to, talk more about how has the relationship between the two countries evolved, in the recent past.
Very briefly, the relationship has been going good, but there is a scope for improvement, and that would be key on the agenda for 2 weeks today.
Well, Amrit, also looking at India-Swedish relationship, how has, over the years this particular relationship been, have they seen their share of ups and downs, or would you say it's always been an ally that India could always bank on?
Well, we do not have any major problems with Sweden. We have a very good relationship with them, as you said in your anchoring that we share democratic values. Our vision of working together is in place. But trade and investment needs to go higher, especially in the defense sector, in research and development. And there is a lot of scope for that. That potential hasn't, achieved its fullest. And I think the two leaders today, when they talk, would be focusing on how to take that forward, how to look at increasing investment and cooperation between B2B cooperation, not just government to government, but business to business cooperation, and easing out any wrinkles that ironing out the wrinkles that exist in terms of the red tapeism between the two countries.
Okay.
All right, Amrit, thank you so much for joining us with those inputs. That was our correspondent Amrit Pal Singh telling us more about the virtual summit between the Prime Ministers of India and Sweden, which is to be held today.
Well, that's the one of the events that the Prime Minister has today. There are many more. Let's now take a look at the other one. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will receive the CERAWeek Global Energy and Environment Leadership Award and deliver the keynote address at the Cambridge Energy Research Associates Week 2021 via video conferencing. CERAWeek was founded in 1983 by Dr. Daniel Ergin. It is considered the world's premier annual energy platform. CERAWeek 2021 is being convened virtually from the 1st of March to the 5th of March, and CERAWeek Global Energy and Environment Leadership Award was instituted in 2016. It recognizes the commitment of leadership on the future of global energy and environment and for offering solutions and policies for energy access, affordability and environmental stewardship.
The Prime Minister will also address the webinars of DP, IIT and Niti Aayog during the day today. Underlining that terrorism is an attack against human rights, India on Thursday said that it has been at the forefront of global counter-terrorism efforts and does not see any contradiction between countering terrorism and promotion and protection of human rights. India said at the UNHRC session that India has always been at forefront of global counter-terrorism efforts. India took initiative to pilot draft comprehensive convention on international terrorism with the objective of providing a comprehensive legal framework to combating terrorism. Adding to it, India also highlighted that India supports capacity building and technical assistance programs extended to member states by UN Counter-Terrorism Center, including for building their capacity to promote and support human rights while also countering terrorism.
Well, notification for the second phase of state assembly elections in West Bengal will be issued today. 30 constituencies will go to polls in this phase. March 12th is the last day for filing of nominations, while scrutiny will be done on the 15th. Candidates can withdraw their name by the 17th of March. Polling for this phase will be held on the 1st of April. Also, notification for the second phase of Assam Assembly polls will be issued today. March 12th is the last day for filing of nominations, while the scrutiny will be done on 15th. The names can be withdrawn by the 17th. Polling for this particular phase of Assam elections will be held on April 1st. 39 assembly constituencies will go to poll in the second phase of Assam Assembly polls.
And poll fever heats up in poll-bound states of Assam, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, West Bengal and the Union Territory of Puducherry. Meanwhile, in the national capital, Delhi, BJP Central Election Committee, led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, met to discuss candidates' list for first two phases of polls. Party National President JP Nadda, Home Minister Amit Shah and Defence Minister Rajnath Singh were among those present in the meeting. The meeting of BJP Central Election Committee will continue today as well to finalise the list of candidates. Earlier on Thursday, Bharatiya Janata Party approached the Election Commission with a complaint against West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee.
काल तक साफ हो जाएगा, लिस्ट निकल जाएगा, उसके बाद सब पता चल जाएगा। सब चीजों के बारे में चर्चा हुई है, निर्णय बाकी है।
And also, as we told you about the complaint, the party claimed that the ruling Trinamool Congress was planning to disturb the upcoming assembly elections in the state through booth capturing.
चुनाव आयोग को आज हमने दो तीन विषय प्रमुख रूप से कहे। पश्चिम बंगाल में जो म्यूनिसिपैलिटीज हैं उनका टर्म एक साल पहले खत्म हो गया। कलकत्ता म्यूनिसिपल कॉरपोरेशन का और काफी सारी कॉरपोरेशंस का भी एक साल पहले टर्म खत्म हो गया। लेकिन पश्चिम बंगाल सरकार ने संविधान की भावना का अनादर करते हुए वहां के टीएमसी के नेताओं को ही उन लोकल बॉडीज का एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर नियुक्त कर दिया।
Well, the nationwide vaccination drive in the country is gathering pace. Thursday also saw several union ministers, chief ministers, governors and opposition leaders taking the shot, with the overall numbers crossing the 1.7 crore mark. But Maharashtra, Kerala, Punjab, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat and Karnataka are still reporting a surge in the daily new COVID positive cases.
The COVID-19 vaccination is fast gaining pace as the second phase of the drive is now open to senior citizens and those above 45 years with comorbidities. Thursday saw many union ministers, lieutenant governors, chief ministers, opposition leaders and common people getting the COVID-19 jab. The COVID-19 vaccination drive is going smoothly across the country. Elderly and people with comorbidities aged 45 years took the vaccine dose at different centers. There was enthusiasm among senior citizens after taking the jab.
से पहले जिनको लगा था मेडिकल वर्कर्स वगैरह तो उनको किसी को कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं हुई है और अभी हमने भी लगाया 10 मिनट हो चुके हैं तो हमें बिल्कुल ठीक लग रहा है, कोई कम प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। हम तो सबको यही सजेस्ट करेंगे, हाथ जोड़ के विनती भी करेंगे कि जरूर लगवाएं सब।
ये सबको लेना चाहिए, डोज भी लेनी चाहिए और उसके बाद में प्रिकॉशन पूरा लेना चाहिए।
बहुत अच्छा फील हो रहा है और लोगों के एक्साइटमेंट देख के भी लग रहा है कि लोग सब लगवाना चाहते हैं।
Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman received her first dose of COVID-19 shot at a hospital in New Delhi. In a tweet, the Finance Minister said, and I quote, "Got my first dose of the vaccination against COVID-19 this morning, thanking Sister Ramya PC for her care and professionalism. Fortunate to be in India where development and dissemination has been prompt and affordable." Union Tourism and Culture Minister Prahlad Singh Patel also took the first dose of COVID-19 vaccine at New Delhi's AIIMS. Delhi's Lieutenant Governor Anil Baijal received the first shot of the COVID-19 vaccine at a hospital in Delhi. In the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha took his first dose of COVID-19 vaccine at the Government Medical College and Hospital in Jammu. After taking the vaccine, the Lieutenant Governor said it was a smooth process and he urged all the eligible people to get the vaccine dose.
आज जम्मू मेडिकल कॉलेज में मैंने कोविडशील्ड वैक्सीन लिया है कोरोना के लिए और मुझे लगता है कि मुझे तो पता ही नहीं लगा कि वैक्सीन भी लगी है और मेरा निवेदन होगा जम्मू कश्मीर के सभी निवासियों से जो इस श्रेणी में आते हैं कि शीघ्र वैक्सीनेशन लेने का कष्ट करें और ये पूरी तरह सुरक्षित है।
Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan also received the first dose of COVID-19 vaccine in Bhopal. Himachal Pradesh Chief Minister Jai Ram Thakur also got his first dose of COVID-19 vaccine in capital Shimla.
आज मुझे इस बात की प्रसन्नता है कि हमने भी शुरुआत की और हमारे साथ में हमारे स्पीकर महोदय वो भी शुरुआत बहुत बड़ी एक उम्मीद के साथ वो इंतजार कर रहे थे कि वैक्सीन आएगी और वैक्सीन आने के बाद निश्चित रूप से इस बड़े संकट से दुनिया को बाहर निकालने में हम सब लोग सफल होंगे।
Some opposition leaders might have questioned the efficacy of the COVID-19 vaccine, but with former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh and Delhi's Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal receiving their first COVID-19 jab, all the speculations have been laid to rest. The vaccination drive is progressing at a rapid pace across the country. Even as the COVID-19 vaccination drive is going at full pace, Maharashtra, Kerala, Punjab, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat and Karnataka continue to report a surge in the COVID daily new cases. They cumulatively account for 85.51% of the new cases reported in the past 24 hours. 17,407 new cases were registered in the last 24 hours. Maharashtra reported the highest daily new cases at 9,855. This is the highest number recorded in Maharashtra since 18th October when 10,259 new cases were reported. It is followed by Kerala, the 2,765, while Punjab reported 772 new cases. Bureau Report, DD India.
The Indian Embassy in Zimbabwe announced on Thursday that the African country has approved the Made in India vaccine against COVID-19 virus, Covaxin becoming the first country in the continent to approve the shot developed by Bharat Biotech International Limited. The tweet stated, and I quote, "Zimbabwe has authorized the use of Covaxin, India's indigenous COVID-19 vaccine, becoming the first country in Africa to do so, trying to get it to Zimbabwe at an early date." Meanwhile, Indian Ambassador Vijay Khanduja has called on Vice President General Dr. Constantino Chiwenga and discussed the bilateral matters. Vice President Chiwenga conveyed the good news of authorization of Covaxin, India's indigenous COVID-19 vaccine, in Zimbabwe.
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will today address the top commanders of the Indian Army, Air Force and the Navy at a combined commanders conference. The three-day combined commanders conference, a premier brainstorming event of the military commanders from the three services, is being held at Kevadia in Gujarat. The conference will have the combined apex-level military leadership of the country reviewing the security situation and defence preparedness of the armed forces and deliberating pertinent organizational issues for evolving a joint military vision for the future. The valedictory session on the third and final day will be chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, with the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval also in attendance. Meanwhile, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has tweeted, and I quote, "Leaving for Kevadia, Gujarat on a two-day visit, shall attend the Combined Commanders Conference where India's security situation and defence preparedness would be reviewed. Looking forward to it."
Hardeep Singh Puri, Minister of State, Independent Charge, Housing and Urban Affairs, announced the release of final rankings of Ease of Living Index 2020 and the Municipal Performance Index 2020 on Thursday in an online event. 111 cities participated in the assessment exercise that was conducted in 2020. Bengaluru emerged as the top performer in the million plus category, followed by Pune, Ahmedabad, Chennai, Surat, Navi Mumbai, Coimbatore, Vadodara, Indore and Greater Mumbai. In the less than million category, Shimla was ranked the highest in the ease of living, followed by Bhubaneswar, Silvassa, Kakinada, Salem, Vellore, Gandhinagar, Gurugram, Devangiri and Tiruchirappalli. Similar to the Ease of Living Index, the assessment framework under Municipal Performance Index 2020 has classified municipalities based on their population, million plus and less than million population. Now, in the million plus category, Indore has emerged as the highest ranked municipality, followed by Surat and Bhopal. In the less than million category, New Delhi Municipal Council has emerged as the leader, followed by Tirupati and Gandhinagar. Also, the Ease of Living Index is an assessment tool that evaluates the quality of life and the impact of various initiatives for urban development. The Municipal Performance Index was launched as an accompaniment to the Ease of Living Index. It seeks to examine local government practice in municipalities across areas of services, finance, policy, technology and governance. A citizens' perception survey holding a weightage of 30% is part of the Ease of Living Index 2021.
Under the Smart Cities project, the fact that you have more than 50 command and control centers operational, the choice is not between a smart city and a not so smart city. That's not the choice. The choice is between smart city and decay. Either you smartify a city or the city is going to stagnate and go into decay. A smart city is about urban rejuvenation. A smart city is about governance. It is about accountability. It is about ease of living.
Well, 12 Indian institutes have made it to the top 100 of the World QS World University Rankings by Subject 2021. Union Education Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank addressed at the unveiling of the QS World University Rankings 2021. Addressing on the occasion, the minister expressed his happiness and congratulated the 12 Indian institutes on securing positions in the top 100 in the QS subject rankings for the year 2021. He said, over the last few years, the government's continuous focus on improvement and reform in India and higher education has resulted in significant improvement in the representation of Indian institutes in globally acclaimed and reputed rankings like Q3S.
IIT बॉम्बे है, IIT दिल्ली है, IIT मद्रास है, IIT खड़गपुर है, IISc बेंगलोर है, IIT गुवाहाटी है, IIM बेंगलोर है, IIM अहमदाबाद है, JNU दिल्ली है, अन्ना विश्वविद्यालय है और दिल्ली विश्वविद्यालय है और प्राइवेट क्षेत्र का OP जिंदल ग्लोबल यूनिवर्सिटी है। ये 12 विश्वविद्यालय आज QS रैंकिंग में पूरे विश्व के 40,000 विश्वविद्यालयों में अपनी प्रथम 100 के अंदर आकर के इन्होंने हिंदुस्तान का सम्मान बढ़ाया है।
India and Bangladesh have been exemplary neighbors, particularly since 2014. Now the ties are all set to be cemented further, with Prime Minister Narendra Modi visiting the eastern neighbor towards the end of the month to take part in not one, but 3 concurrent landmark occasions. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar visited Dhaka for a day to meet his Bangladesh counterpart for that purpose and also discuss the full range of bilateral ties, from security to trade, connectivity to culture. We get to more in this report.
India and Bangladesh have remained steadfast friends right from inception of India's eastern neighbour. Now that relationship is set to get a major boost in a landmark year. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar was in Dhaka on Thursday, meeting his Bangladesh counterpart Dr. A.K. Abdul Momin. The two ministers discussed not only the full gamut of bilateral ties but also the preparations for Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Dhaka visit later this month. His first foreign visit ever since the COVID pandemic struck, to celebrate 3 concurrent events.
We are working to prepare for the planned visit of our Prime Minister. It will surely be a very memorable visit. If I recall right, it would be his first visit outside India since the coronavirus pandemic and his second as Prime Minister to Bangladesh. We know that this is a very special year for you when both countries mark the Mujib Barsha, 50 years of Bangladesh's liberation and 50 years of our bilateral relationship.
We are very pleased that Prime Minister Modi will join us for the Mujib Barsha celebrations, as well as the Golden Jubilee of Bangladesh independence and 50 years of Bangladesh-India diplomatic relations. We discussed some of the important activities that we plan to undertake jointly to celebrate these historic occasions.
Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina are likely to flag off the direct passenger train service between Dhaka and New Jalpaiguri during the former's Dhaka visit. Both the ministers noted bilateral ties between the two neighbours have made rapid progress since PM Modi took office in 2014. Even the COVID pandemic couldn't slow it down.
Even the pandemic has actually provided an opportunity to reaffirm our friendship. Bangladesh is the largest recipient of Made in India vaccines. Also among the friendship, our largest gift of vaccines of 2 million, which is really appropriate that it is to Bangladesh.
India and Bangladesh have also carried out multiple consultations and on-ground activities during the pandemic, including a virtual summit meet between their top leaders on 17th of December. Dr. S. Jaishankar also called on Prime Minister Hasina on Thursday during his day-long Dhaka visit. Rajesh Jha's report, Dhaka, DD India.
All right, after those national headlines, we get to international updates in our segment Across the Globe.
Well, top story coming from New Zealand, where thousands of New Zealanders on the east coast of the country's North Island evacuated to higher ground on Friday. Its biggest city was put on alert after 3 offshore earthquakes in less than 8 hours triggered tsunami sirens and warnings. A powerful 8.1 magnitude earthquake struck off the east of New Zealand's North Island on Thursday, prompting a tsunami. This came shortly after a 7.4 magnitude earthquake in the same region. Earlier, a large 7.2 magnitude earthquake struck about 900 kilometers or 540 miles away on the east of the North Island. Workers, students and residents in areas like Northland and the Bay of Plenty on the northern coast near Auckland were assisted by civil defense officials. An emergency alert was meanwhile issued for all coastal areas around Auckland. The Pacific Tsunami Warning Center has asked people to stay alert.
The US said that it is saddened by the deaths of demonstrators in Myanmar and condemns the use of violence by security forces in the country. US State Department spokesman Ned Price on Thursday said that Washington will take further action in response to the rising violence in the aftermath of the coup. Police used tear gas and gunfire to disperse protesters in several cities across Myanmar on Wednesday. The United Nations said that 38 people had been killed during Wednesday's demonstrations.
Are deeply saddened by reports that security forces killed as many as 24 people yesterday, March 3rd. We strongly condemn the use of violence by Burmese security forces against the Burmese people, including peaceful protesters, journalists, and civil society. We continue to urge the Burmese military to exercise maximum restraint. This latest escalation in violence demonstrates the fact of the junta's complete disregard for their own people, for the people of Burma. It is unacceptable, and the world will continue to respond. The United States will continue to respond. We'll continue to respond in tandem with our partners and allies around the world. There will be additional action on the part of the United States.
The US also condemned the arrest and detention of journalists in Myanmar. Ned Price called upon the military to immediately release the journalists.
We are deeply concerned about the increasing attacks and arrests of journalists. We call on the military to immediately release these individuals and to cease their intimidation and harassment of the media and others who are unjustly detained for doing nothing more than their job, for doing nothing more than exercising their universal rights.
Well, hundreds of Myanmar nationals on Thursday gathered in front of the United Nations headquarters in Bangkok to pay tributes to protesters killed in Myanmar. The protest on the 3rd of March was the bloodiest day since the military overthrew the elected government of Aung San Suu Kyi on the 1st of Feb. The UN Special Envoy on Burma said that 38 people were killed on Wednesday.
The Guatemala Met Institute has warned that incandescent volcanic blocks could rain down on nearby towns after one of Central America's most active volcanoes, Pacaya, erupted on 3rd of March, expelling lava for several hours. Officials stopped short of ordering evacuations. Relatively mild blast ejecting burning cinders and lava bombs. Pacaya experienced some minor activity for a month before erupting on Wednesday.
Well, Pope Francis and Grand Ayatollah Ali al-Sistani's posters decorate the Shiite holy city of Najaf ahead of the Pope's visit to Iraq today. Pope Francis will start a 4-day tour of Iraq to boost morale and highlight the difficulties some Christian communities face. Iraq's minority Christian community has been devastated by wars and repression by the Islamic State insurgents.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Thursday said that Israel, Austria and Denmark will establish a joint fund for research and development of COVID-19 vaccines. Netanyahu has made Israel's inoculation program a showcase of his campaign in the March 23rd election.
We're going to do a joint R&D fund and discuss the production, the possibility of joint investment in production of facilities for vaccines. I think this is great news, and I think it reflects the respect we have for each other and the belief, the confidence that we have in working together to protect the health of our peoples.
President Joe Biden on Thursday said he continues to speak with Republican lawmakers about his proposed COVID relief package as the U.S. Senate begins the debate on the $1.9 trillion bill. The Senate voted on Thursday to take up Biden's top legislative priority, The relief bill includes funding for vaccines and medical supplies, extend jobless assistance, and provides a new round of emergency financial aid to households, small businesses, and state and local governments.
I've been talking to a lot of my Republican friends in the House and the Senate, continue to do that, and we've have a number of meetings with Republicans on the coronavirus bill, and House, Senate, combination of both, so we're keeping everybody informed.
French Prime Minister on Thursday said that France will extend COVID-19 weekend lockdowns to the region around the Channel coast town of Pas-de-Calais, also following similar lockdowns around Nice and Dunkirk. He also said that Ain and Aube would be added to a series of high alert departments, but added that there is no need for weekend lockdowns there at this stage.
Rio de Janeiro, the second biggest city of Brazil, will be the latest to adopt new COVID-related restrictions, including a night curfew from today. The new restrictions have been imposed to curb a deadly second wave of COVID-19 that is ravaging the South American country. The city will impose a curfew from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. and order restaurants to be closed at 5 in the evening. The new restrictions are due to last through 11th of March.
The death toll due to COVID continues to rise in Mexico. The country's health ministry data on Thursday showed 822 new deaths from the virus, taking the total confirmed toll in the country to 1,88,866. Amidst this, Mexico has started to vaccinate its elderly population. Around 2.5 million people have been inoculated in the country.
Well, COVID-19 vaccines were transported using military helicopters to Ruzizi in western Rwanda on Thursday. The 5,000 doses will be distributed to 19 health centers. Rwanda on Wednesday received the first doses of the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine to be dispatched to Africa under the vaccine sharing scheme COVAX. Rwanda plans to start its inoculation drive from today.
Up next, a quick look at the global update from COVID-19 across the world. So far, 11 crore 62 lakh 3,000 people have contracted COVID-19 globally, while the tally of recovery stands at over 9 crore 18 lakh 77,000. The COVID-19 virus has claimed over 25 lakh 80,000 lives worldwide. The US continues to remain worst affected from COVID-19, where more than 2 crore 95 lakh 22,000 cases of COVID-19 have been quoted. The country's fatalities have crossed 5 lakh 33,000.
Well, time now to shift focus and take a look at all that's making news in the newspaper websites and also the social media platforms. Over to our next segment, Web News Review.
All right, to get us this web review today, Tapas is joining us. Good morning, Tapas. Very quickly, let us know what headlines have you picked up for us from social media platforms.
Right, Preeti. So let me just start with the first news that has made headline yesterday in all over the social media, and it was about the IT raids on income tax raid on Anurag Kashyap and Taapsee Pannu. It's the first. The headline is from the Hindustan Times, which says that they found the IT department found discrepancy and manipulation and income worth almost rupees 650 crore. And the searches was part of the tax evasion probe against both of them, Anurag Kashyap along with Taapsee Pannu. And there have been huge separation. The IT department said there was a huge separation of income compared to the actual box office collection and the other things. So IT department clearly making a headline yesterday in the social media. The second news that we have picked up is that NGT directs Delhi Chief Secretary to look into a plea alleging pollution by industries in the northwest Delhi. That's a headline from the Times of India. The National Green Tribunal has directed the Delhi Chief Secretary to look into plea alleging pollution by industrial units in Libaspur village area in the northwest of Delhi. The bench headed by NGT chairperson has directed the Chief Secretary to ensure compliance of order on pollution by illegal industrial activities. The Green Panel said that it is for the statutory authorities to continue further steps for enforcement of such enforcement of the plea, and that according to applicant, the industries are conducting hazardous, dangerous, and pollution activities affecting the health of the inhabitants. So that was the second headline. The third one is an international headline that Italy blocks Astra COVID vaccine export, and that's a headline from the Hindustan Times. Italy has blocked the shipment of AstraZeneca's coronavirus vaccine to Australia using a recently introduced European Union regulation for the first time in a move that risks triggering a global backlash. The decision comes after Italian Prime Minister called during a EU summit last week for a tougher approach against the companies that don't respect their delivery commitment. According to the information, the move highlights the intention to be on tougher on pharmaceuticals companies that do not respect the commitment to the EU and could encourage retaliatory protectionist measures by other governments agencies. So that's another headline we have been picked up. The another important headline that we have picked up was from Reuters, but it made a lot of points in what you call in social media about obesity, a driving factor in the COVID-19 deaths, according to a global report. According to this particular report, the majority of the global COVID-19 deaths have been in countries where many people are obese, and with the coronavirus fatality rates 10 times higher in nation where at least 50% of the adults are overweight, according to this particular study. The report also described the dramatic correlation between countries of COVID-19 death and obesity rates, and found that 90% or almost 2.2 million of the 2.5 million deaths so far from the pandemic disease were in countries with high level of obesity. So that's another very interesting report that correlate COVID-19 death along with obesity. The other news item that made a lot of traction on social media was from CNN, and that says that Hong Kong, which used to be the poster child for economic freedom, not anymore. That's a headline from CNN, and Hong Kong has been booted off an index of economic freedom that it used to lead, dealing a blow to the city's standing as a global business hub. The Heritage Foundation, which is one of the think tank, actually revealed that the annual ranking of the freest economies, leaving Hong Kong off the list. And this particular list is Hong Kong had dominated this list earlier over almost many decades. In fact, according to this particular foundation, Singapore remains at the top of the top-rated economy on the list this year, followed by New Zealand, Australia, Switzerland, and Ireland. And China is in the bottom half in 107th place out of the 184 countries. So that is another news, international news that made a lot of headlines. Remember, Hong Kong had to endure a lot of activities in the last couple of years, and no wonder it has actually fallen off the perch when it comes to economic freedom. The other news is from sports, where in fact Sumit Nagal, India's ace tennis player, registered his biggest win of his career, and he beat the world number 22. The 23-year-old Indian earned the biggest victory of his career thus far, defeating second seed Chilean Christian Garin 6-4, 6-3 in the second round of the Argentine Open, and that made a lot of traction in the social media. A lot of people hailed Sumit Nagal's effort and his work. So that was another news. The last but not the least is headline in England and India regarding the test match, the fourth test match that that's currently going on. On the first day, the newspapers in England and India summed up the three lions' agony in the fourth test. The England's newspapers were quite critical of their team's failure. In fact, Daily Mail wrote that another missed opportunity after winning a huge toss, another case of England not learning from their mistakes, and most curiously, a muddled selection that left Joe Root short of bowling options when he needed 20 wickets to gain anything from the series. That was from Daily Mail. BBC wrote, in fact, on a blameless pitch, entirely different from the third test surface that made run scoring so difficult. England were bundled out for 205 after winning the toss. So that was from BBC. And Indian newspapers also rejoiced Men in Blue's performance on the first day. It says that England's batsmen lost the battle of both mind and skills, and in another shoddy performance from them to surrender the momentum to India, with Akshar Patel and Ravichandran Ashwin calling the shots on the opening day of the fourth test. So in that sense, what you can say is that English newspapers and English media were very critical of the fact that their team's performance on the first day of the fourth test was left a lot to be desired. Remember, after the third test, a lot of talks were going on about the pitch, about the surface. But this particular pitch has nothing. It has no demons, and yet the team was bundled out by under 200 in 205. So that says a lot about the team's, the England team's morale in this particular series so far.
Okay.
Back to you, Anil, for more news and updates.
Well, thank you for and appreciate you joining us, especially giving us a rundown when it comes to sports stories with Sumit Nagal and the Indian cricket team. Well, let's now move across to our next segment, Business Buzz.
State Bank of India is all set to conduct an electronic auction for the mortgage properties today. The properties offered by SBI e-auction will include all kinds of properties like housing, residential, commercial, industrial. The SBI said it has put immovable properties mortgaged with a bank or attached by court order to auction on e-auction by furnishing all the relevant details that can make it an attractive proposition for bidders to participate in the auctions. The SBI in a tweet said, "Your dream home beckons. Attend SBI Mega e-auction and place your best bid to buy a property at an amazing deal."
Well, US Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell on Thursday repeated his pledge to keep credit loose and flowing until Americans are back to work. His remarks rebutted investors who have openly doubted he can stick to that promise once the pandemic passes and the economy surges on its own. Powell told a Wall Street Journal forum that the vaccine's rolling out and the US government's fiscal taps open, there is good reason to think that the country will make more progress soon towards the Fed's goal of maximum employment and 2% sustained inflation. His comments set aside concern that a recent rise in the US Treasury yields might spell trouble for the Fed as investors push up borrowing costs. The central bank wants to keep low for firms and families looking to finance major purchases and investments.
Wall Street ended sharply low on Thursday, leaving Nasdaq quite down nearly 10% from its February record high after remarks from Federal Chair Jerome Powell disappointed investors worried about rising longer-term US bond yields. In a day of heavy trading on the Wall Street, Nasdaq wiped out all of its year-to-date gains and ended down 9.7% from its record closing high of February 12. The S&P 500 has declined over 4% from its record high close on February 12th. The crucial monthly payrolls report is expected on Friday, and Wall Street has been under pressure in recent sessions as a spike in US bond yields hurt valuations of high-flying tech stocks. S&P 500 Energy Sector Index jumped 2.5% and reached a one-year high on the back of higher oil prices. Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 1.11% to end at 30,924.14, while S&P 500 lost 1.34% to 3,768.47. Nasdaq Composite dropped 2.11% to 12,723.47.
Well, will that impact be seen in the markets? We'll have to wait and watch as it opens in 25 minutes flat. But let's move on now to Sports Track. Olympic silver medalist PV Sindhu has made it to the quarterfinals of the Swiss Open badminton competition. Sindhu defeated American Iris Wang 21-13, 21-14 in straight games. Sindhu will next face Thailand's Busanand in the women's singles quarterfinal.
Srikanth, a former world #1 player, also won the men's singles second-round match over France's Thomas Roxel 21-10, 14-21 and 21-14 to advance to the quarterfinals. After winning the first set, Srikanth had to struggle in the second set. The Frenchman Roxel won the game and made the match exciting. But in the third set, Srikanth returned once again and won the match. Srikanth will face Thailand's Kantaphorn in the quarterfinals.
Well, Liverpool meanwhile lost 5 league games in a row at home for the first time as Chelsea climbed into the top 4 in the English Premier League. Chelsea's forward player Mason Mount scored a goal in the 42nd minute of the game with a pass from Kante to give his team an edge in the match. In the second half, Liverpool tried to draw the match, but they could not penetrate Chelsea's defence. After this defeat, Liverpool have slipped to the 7th place in the table, while the Chelsea team, which has been performing poorly for some time, is now touching a new peak after the arrival of new coach Thomas Tuchel. Liverpool are in trouble and Jurgen Klopp looks completely out of ideas. In contrast, Thomas Tuchel has reinvigorated this Chelsea machine. Liverpool have become the first English team that's the top-flight reigning champions to lose 5 consecutive home league matches, and Liverpool will be at home again on Sunday with struggling Fulham being the visitors, and Chelsea will be action the next day with another top 4 challenger Everton at Stamford Bridge.
And up next, we'll take a look at the events which made this day special in history. It's the 5th of March. Let's take a look at the events.
On 5th March 1851, the Geological Survey of India was established in Kolkata. Thomas Oldham took charge of the office. The main functions of GSI relate to creation and updation of national geoscientific information and mineral resource assessment. On this day in 1911, Air Marshal Subrata Mukherjee, the first Indian to assume the office of Chief of the Air Staff of the Indian Air Force, was born in Kolkata. He has been called the father of the Indian Air Force. In the year 1931, on 5th March, the Gandhi-Irwin Pact was signed between Mahatma Gandhi and British Viceroy of India, Lord Irwin. The agreement paved way for Congress participation in the Second Round Table Conference. It marked the end of a period of civil disobedience against British rule that Gandhi and his followers initiated with the Salt March in early 1930s. On 5th March 1953, Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin died in Moscow. He was in power for 29 years. After his death, the Chechens were allowed to return home.
And Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Man Dhan Yojana completes 2 years today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on March 5th in 2019 launched Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Man Dhan Yojana. Now, the scheme is meant for protection of the elderly and social security of unorganized workers. It is a voluntary and contributory pension scheme under which the subscriber would receive a minimum assured pension of Rs 3,000 per month after attaining the age of 60 years. And if the subscriber dies, the spouse of the beneficiary shall be entitled to receive 50% of the pension as family pension. Family pension is applicable only to the spouse. Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Man Dhan Yojana completing 2 years today. It was launched on 5th March 2019 by Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Well, time now to take a look at the weather.
A fresh western disturbance is very likely to affect Western Himalayan region.
Well,
That's it. in this edition of Breakfast Show this Friday morning. We're heading for a weekend ahead. We'll be back again on Monday morning with a fresh edition of Breakfast News.
Well, it's time for us to say goodbye, but remember it's a Friday morning, and as we head for the weekend, let's keep technology behind and enjoy our weekend with our loved ones. And we also got a campaign running for you, Mask Up India. Do not forget to drop your guard in the fight against COVID-19. A visual to enlighten your day. Take a look, have a safe and wonderful day ahead.
Bye-bye.